My grandson gets 10, but I guess he's going to want to come to your house now. I don't have um, what is that I use?
Gavel.
Gavel, thank you. I don't have a gavel, but we're going to start anyway. All right. Time being after.
It's on the slide as well. It's the public hearing.
Okay. Sorry. Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting for Tuesday, the 26th of May. Would you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think it's very appropriate that we recognize our country, and certainly the day after we should have been and continue to recognize those who have served, and especially those who have sacrificed and the families that supported them. Now's the time on our agenda for public comment. Are there any indications of public comment?
Mr. Chair, Mr. President, I did not receive any requests to speak to the public that's present online. If you wish to provide a public comment, please raise your hand to be recognized. Nothing seen, sir.
All right. We also have time for introductions. Are there any introductions to be made? Who's that man standing at the end of the, oh, hi, Paul. I know. I think that is, that's a shortcoming of our meetings down here. Is that because we don't see them. I don't see anybody with their hand raised, right?
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
All right, fine. So we'll move ahead to item 3.1, the public hearing. And this is found on page 3 of our agenda and will be brought to us by our CEO and general manager, and also our human resources risk manager, Heather Dyer and Karen Resendez. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. This item is actually going to be facilitated by Karen and may have some assistance by our legal counsel as we are required to open a public hearing. So Karen, you want to take it over?
Yep. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, President Harrison and members of the board. This item satisfies an annual reporting requirement under Government Code Section 3502.3, added by Assembly Bill 2561 in January of 2025. And it requires every public agency to publicly report on the status of their vacancies and recruitment and retention efforts at least one time each fiscal year before adoption of their final budget. We're asking the board to conduct the public hearing, receive any public comments, and then receive and file the annual report. So to give you a little bit of background on where we're at in our recruitment and retention efforts, we have 43 authorized full-time positions, 39 are filled and 4 are vacant. 3 of the 4 vacancies are those new roles that you approved in December of 2025 for our hydro team. And the 4th vacancy is the Chief Information Officer, which was vacated approximately 2 years ago due to a retirement of a longtime employee. As far as our recruitment and retention highlights, our recruitment remains strong. We have targeted outreach and a lot of industry partnerships. We've streamlined our timelines and onboarding to get people on more quickly, which has been really helpful. Our retention is strong and we have consistently low turnover, which is supported by your support, competitive compensation and benefits, workforce development, and growth pathways. We've identified no policy, procedural, or recruitment changes that need to be made to remove obstacles in the hiring process. So staff recommends that the board conduct the public hearing as required and receive any public comments, and then receive and file the annual report on the status of vacant positions and recruitment and retention efforts. I will turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, sir.
How long is the CIO position been vacant?
To
I believe it's been about 2 years.
All right, we have staff recommendation that the board conduct a public hearing and receive comments prior to consideration of receiving and filing the annual vacant positions report. Is there a motion?
Well, excuse me, Mr. President. First, we need to open the public hearing.
Oh, I thought the motion was to open the public hearing. Sorry. All right, then I will open a public hearing.
If there's nothing further from staff or legal counsel, the public hearing is now open. We will now hear from the public. If anyone desiring to speak has not requested to speak, please do so now. Virtual participants may raise their hand electronically or verbally to request to speak at this time. Mr. President, I see no hands.
All right, thank you.
If there are no more members of the public who wish to be heard on this matter, the public hearing is now closed. This is a receive and file item and no further action is required at this time.
All right. Thank you. So moving on in our agenda, therefore, it says board motion and roll call vote. I am confused. Oh.
Now we can move on to item 4.1.
All right, that recommendation was before 4.1, so. All right, we'll move on to item 4.1, which is to consider resolution 1200, paying employer paid member contributions for employees hired on or after July 1, 2011. This will also be brought to us by the aforementioned ladies.
Thank you, Heather.
Karen?
And members of the board, President Harrison. This item's an annual housekeeping item that staff bring before the board each year following the release of the CalPERS actuarial reports. The resolution formalizes the board's longstanding policy of contributing to a maximum of 16% of salary toward pension costs for Tier 2 Classic employees. Those are employees that are hired on or after July 1st, 2011. And before January 1st, 2013, the total 16% combined contribution remains unchanged from historical practice. Maintaining this cap helps maximize long-term Tier 2 pension costs impacts to the agency while continuing to support employees with predictable competitive retirement benefits. And staff are recommending approval of resolution number 1200, paying employee member contributions for employees hired on or after July 1st, 2011 and before January 1st, 2013, effective July 1, 2026. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, Karen. Do we have any questions or comments from the board members? Seeing none. Yes, Mr. Keel.
Turn my microphone on.
Mr. Keelhold.
How many tiers are there?
There are 3 tiers. Tier 1, Tier 2 Classic. There's Tier 1 and Tier 2 are considered Classic members, and then the new or PEPRA member is the 3rd tier.
And what differentiates the tiers?
The date of hire.
And what is tier 1?
So Tier 1 are those,
2011?
yes, Tier 1 are those employees who were hired by this district before 2011, July of
How many
2011.
employees fall into that category?
We currently have 8.
Okay. And tier two?
And then tier two employees, we have 11. And tier three, we have 20.
Thank you. That's all.
That's all?
That's all I was asking.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? We have a motion for approval. Is there, and we have a second. Roll call, please, Mr. Clerk.
Vice President Patel,
Yes.
Director Keelhold,
Yes.
Director Longville,
Yes.
Director Velasquez,
Yes.
and President Harrison.
Yes,
Motion carries. The staff recommendation for item 4.1 is approved.
thank you. Now we'll move to discussion item 4.2, which is to consider the cost of living adjustment for fiscal year 2026, 2027. This will also be brought to us, I assume, by Karen, but there's also another lady's name that slipped in there who hasn't been introduced yet, Cindy Sachs, our CFO.
Right, staff is asking the board to consider a cost of living adjustment of 2% to the agency's salary schedule, and it will be effective if approved the first full pay period of the fiscal year, which begins July 4th, 2026. If approved, we would also ask that you approve the adjustment of the job position and salary range table for all full-time positions in compliance with California Code of Regulations, Section 570.5. So consistent with past practice, staff used the 12-month change in the Consumer Price Index for the urban wage earners in Riverside and San Bernardino, Ontario area for the period of March 25 to March 26. The CPI change was actually 2.9%, which reflects late period inflationary pressures, which are tied to the global economic events currently occurring. And looking at the underlying trend through January 2026, before those events started, the change was looking to be approximately 2%. So staff is recommending a 2% COLA, which appropriately recognizes regional inflation while also recognizing the current volatility in the economy. Every 1% of COLA equates to roughly $78,000 annually in total wages and benefits, or approximately $6,500 a month. And that's based on the approved 25-26 schedule. At the recommended 2%, the estimated annual impact is approximately $156,000 or roughly $13,000 a month. Any approved increase by the board will be included in the fiscal year 26-27 general fund budget, which the board will formally adopt in June. The recommended COLA maintains the value of employee wages measured against the economic pressures and supports the agency's competitiveness in the local hiring market. And staff is asking the board to consider 2% or any amount that you deem appropriate to the salary schedule effective the first full pay period in fiscal year 26-27 and will implement as directed by the board. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Karen. I hope we have some comments from the board on this. Yes, our CEO.
I just wanted to add one more bit of context. So as you know, several years ago, we did a wages and benefits survey and report. The board brought everyone up to the industry average for all the positions. And then after that, we had some kind of crazy years of inflation during COVID, and the board did keep up with those CPI numbers throughout those years of, very volatile and extreme inflation. So we believe that we are in a very good competitive position in terms of workforce competition to get people to come and work with us. And so for that reason, also in combination with the kind of unpredictable volatility of the current conditions related to, the oil trade primarily, we feel like 2% is a good level to go with at this time, knowing that, there may be some additional volatility in the future, but that this agency is in a very good financial competitive position in terms of salaries. So that's one of the reasons that we are recommending 2% or whatever the board directs us to.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I think that staff recommendation 1 and 2 are very prudent and acceptable. And when you're ready for a motion, I want to move 2%. Thank you.
Well, that's pretty clear. Anyone else? Paul?
Has this created any obstacle to recruiting?
It has not so far.
I second the motion.
I don't think he made an official motion yet, but I didn't call for a motion yet. Let's put it that way.
Well, when he does, I will.
All right. Susan or Jose, would you like to say anything?
Through the chair,
Yes.
after the general manager's remarks on the staff being competitive, recruitment efforts and that it's been, that has been a challenge and that, the district, has classification at a competitive level. I'm okay with the 2% as well.
All right.
As am I.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Staff recommendation be approved and presented.
All right.
Think about that. Yeah. Oh, okay, I'll second it.
Okay, fine. We have a motion second. Mr. Clerk?
Director Keholt,
Yes.
Director Velasquez,
Yes.
Director Longville,
Yes.
Vice President Botheo,
Yes.
and President Harrison.
Yes.
Motion carries. The staff recommendation for item 4.2 is approved.
I appreciate the staff's review of this and the fact that I think the reasoning behind not making it higher is very solid, and I think we're watching out for our ratepayers' funds by doing that. Just as long as we can keep our employees happy, because we do have an incredible employment here of incredible employees that really work hard to make this place run right. And we appreciate that. And we want to make sure that they understand that, understand our appreciation at all times. Item 4.3 is next on our agenda. This is to approve a new employee handbook provisions, out of class compensation and acting pay. And this will be brought to us, I assume, by Karen also. Karen?
Well, I'm actually going to open it up, although if there are technical questions related to this, we have both Karen and Brad here who are experts in this field. But I wanted to do just a little bit of context behind this. As we know, unexpected things happen, emergencies, kind of unintentional or otherwise surprising retirements that sometimes happen related to, again, potentially medical issues or other personal issues that happen in staff's life. We are asking the board to consider approving some new provisions related to out-of-class compensation and acting pay. And this is really to provide the agency with the flexibility to appropriately compensate staff when they are kind of working outside of their usual duties in a higher level position in aid of the agency when we need it. Again, like I said, a lot of things happen that we don't expect, and we need to have the ability to be able to adapt and pivot when needed. So these two different items within the proposed revisions to our employee handbook basically have two different purposes. So out of class compensation would apply when a position is permanently vacant and we are initiating a recruitment and an existing employee is performing 100% of the higher classification duties. This compensation would be a temporary upgrade pay, and it is placed on the pay range of that higher level position. So this would be, like I said, if someone had to unexpectedly retire for medical or a personal reason, and we were planning on recruiting for that. And so it is fair and appropriate to compensate a lower level position duties, an employee doing lower level positions, to compensate them at that higher classification of duties. Acting pay is slightly different. This is when an incumbent is on an extended leave that is anticipated to exceed 6 weeks, 6 consecutive weeks, and another employee assumes those responsibilities while also keeping their own responsibilities. And this would be a compensation as a percentage of their base rate in 5% increments. The reason that this is so important is because in order to continue to provide continuity of service, to get all of the different jobs done and the duties that we need to do on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, in the face of unexpected circumstances, having this provision within our handbook as approved by the board would allow us to fairly and appropriately compensate people who are willing to step into those positions for a time. So with that, like I said, if you have specific technical questions, please address them to Brad or Karen. But staff is requesting that you approve the addition of out-of-class compensation provisions in the employee handbook and approve the addition of acting pay provision in the employee handbook. Thank you.
Through the chair.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. I think that these, both of these provisions are needed and they're wise and all those things. The only thing, and I read through the backup, of course. So the only thing that concerns me is that that there's the time. I think there should be a time limit on when we're doing this. I mean, if you're working out of class or even acting paid because there's an emergency or something happened, then let's fly the position. Let's you know, if someone is in that acting position or out of class, if they meet the minimum qualifications and they're doing the job, then they should be able to compete for that job. So I don't want it to be a situation. I don't think it's wise, not that I don't want, but I don't think it's wise that you have these two provisions and they go on and on and on. I know it's like 900 and some hours.
960 hours.
Yeah, so whatever, and I don't know if that can, once you reach, like my job at the city of LA, after 1,000 hours, I got to take a break and then come back the next day or a couple days later.
No.
And the clock starts again. So if that's what that is, I don't think that's wise. I think that if there's a position and you're in it, you should compete for it. And if you get it, you get it. And let's move on. So that's my question.
I would ask our council and our HR manager if there's any additional language that we could add to these two provisions to protect against that that practice.
It's a cap of 960 hours. That's the most that we could do in a fiscal year. And so the intent would be with regard to out of class compensation is you have to have an active recruitment, and that's per CalPERS, while the 960 and the recruitment are going at the same time.
Okay.
And so we wouldn't be able to even have someone out of class compensation unless we were also recruiting. So those things will be happening at the same time. And I can't see someone even getting to the 960 because we are recruiting at the same time. And as far as the acting pay, that might go a little bit, that could go longer just because the position is vacant. Like it go up to 960. And if necessary, we might have to assign somebody else also if the person stayed on leave. This is actually to maintain continuity while someone is on a long-term medical leave, but we anticipate that that person will come back. And so the position is not vacant and we would not fill behind them or recruit while they're out on medical leave.
Exactly. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Those
Thank
are
you, sir.
good points. Thanks. Good. Any other comments?
Yeah, through the
Jose?
chair. Just to clarify for the record, Karen, can you break down these compensations if they're PERSable or not?
So the out of class compensation is PERSable for classic employees, but not for PEPRA employees. And the acting pay is not PERSable for any group of employees. And that's CalPERS law. There's nothing that we can do about that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Obviously, we have staff members that know what they're doing on top of things. Thank you, Karen. Anything else? All right, well, we have a staff recommendation. Is there a motion?
Second.
All right. Susan has recommended has moved the staff recommendation and Jose has seconded. Mr. Clerk, we have both.
Director Longville, Director Velazquez,
Yes.
Vice President Mateo,
Yes.
Director Keelhold, and President Harrison.
Yes,
Motion carries. The staff recommendation for item 4.3 is approved.
thank you. Moving on to item 4.4. This is to consider the revised job position and salary range table and update the organizational chart. We're going to start with you, Heather, on this one.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so this item begins on page 22 of the agenda packet. I'm going to start with a couple of summary slides just to set the stage and then go into a little more detail. So we are proposing no net change to the full-time employee count. However, we are requesting that we reposition a few things. If approved by the board, this would go into effect at the first pay period of the new fiscal year, which would be July 4th, 2026, and that there would be an estimated cost savings of all of these cumulative proposals together of $54,900 in cost savings. That is in comparison to if we were going to fill the chief information officer position with someone in the current market at what we would likely bring them in terms of the tiered levels that we just talked about. Our 4 objectives of this year's org chart is that we would delete the authorized chief information officer full-time employee position and realign those former CIO functions within other departments. As Director Keelhold asked, this has been vacant for almost 2 years. And what have we been doing in 2 years? Well, last year we were concentrating really on the operations department. I like to take very measured approaches to how we look at our org chart and the current functional needs within the agency. And as you'll remember, we made some pretty big changes last year within the operations department, knowing that we were heading into the hydro expansion and trying to get everything aligned in a way that we would have both water operations, mechanical and maintenance operations, and the hydro operations set up coming into this year. And so we were able to get all that going. Mike Esker did a fantastic job in his first year as our operations superintendent, overseeing those 3 departments, with hydro coming online any day now. And so we really concentrated this last year on that. And so this year I am looking at kind of getting everything else aligned in a way that it will support that expanded operations and functions of the agency. We also wanted to establish a clear administrative structure for the strategic communications, events, media, and outreach under the administration department, which was formerly housed within what we called the Business Information Services Department. We also wanted to strengthen the operations department itself with adding the new supervisory classifications for maintenance, mechanical, facilities, and heavy equipment, which again is intended to support both the water operations side and also the hydro operations side. We need maintenance and mechanical work, heavy equipment operations on both sides of that operation house. And so we are requesting the board to formally authorize that position as has presented as kind of a future position on our org chart for the last couple of years. We are ready to add that now, as we know that we are going to be taking possession of those hydro facilities in the next probably month. We also wanted to formalize some leadership responsibilities through selected reclassifications and retitles. So like I said, sorry. On this table, there's a summary of what I just talked about. So eliminating the CIO position and putting the direct reports that were in that department into other departments. We are requesting support for reclassifying what is currently the Chief of Staff and Clerk of the Board position to a Chief Administrative Officer and Deputy General Manager, who would also serve as our Clerk of the Board. This is a reclassification of an incumbent, and I will talk about that move in more detail in a minute. We would like to expand the title to more accurately portray what this person is doing and will do in the future within the organization, that function within the organization. The Strategic Communications Manager would become the Manager of Strategic Communications and Special Initiatives. This would be a retitle, and the range and the full-time employee is unchanged. This person would, Kelly Malloy is in the audience, lead communications, media, our public relations, and our special initiatives, which I want to specifically call out. Kelly will be leading the program of the Sunrise Ranch Master Plan next phase of implementation, and also something that we call our digital archives, which is basically getting our library and several donated libraries worth of materials scanned into a searchable format so that we will have all of our historical documents over the decades in a format that we can search and that will be durable over time going forward. And that is a huge undertaking, as you know, 75 years worth of records, all of the old water master reports and all of the supporting material need to be scanned in a way that's searchable. So that is the Digital Archives Initiative. So Kelly would be in charge of those two special initiatives while also doing our strategic communications efforts. We are requesting that we change the title of Strategic Communications Specialist it is within a series currently, and we kind of simplified that title, Communications Specialist Series, either a specialist, senior, or principal. Stephanie is the person who has that role right now, and so we are asking to eliminate the word strategic from that title. And then finally asking to have formal approval of that operations supervisor that will be supporting both water operations and, sorry. Yes, please.
There's a lot of information, and I'm going to have to take it in pieces.
Okay.
That's just the way my brain works.
Yep.
So I was taking some notes. And so I'm focusing on, you just talked about Kelly and Stephanie's positions. So you're taking the strategic away from Steph and putting it on Kelly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I have three notes here, the special initiatives, digital archives, and then that strategic communication efforts. Kelly is going to manage program manage these efforts.
That is correct.
Okay, and then the thing that caught my attention was Sunrise Ranch. Sunrise Ranch is probably, I don't think I'd get an argument, is the most forward-thinking and probably the most, in terms of treasure, huge investment that this district has made, over $30 million. It's a legacy project, and we just have discussed this in the past. And Director Kilhold's concern is that we're going to look at really, just really take a deep dive into how we're going to accomplish everything that we have been talking about for 2 years out at that property. So I'll talk to you. Does Kelly understand what this assignment is? I mean, it's a huge assignment.
Yes, I believe Kelly does understand the assignment, that this is probably our biggest undertaking in decades, certainly, and that it's very complex. And there are many, I look at them as like columns of effort. So, there's engineering work, there's communications work, there's engagement and partnership work. There's all these different parts of it that need to be overseen and managed as a program of work. And so that's why I really want to shift her priorities to these special initiatives. She'll still be doing PR work, keeping an eye on legislation, moving some of our strategic communications efforts forward, but really on a daily basis, concentrating on moving that initiative forward. Also managing the digital archives, which is really, finding a vendor or other people who can do all that. But the I would say the majority of the workload is on that Sunrise Ranch effort going forward. And so that's why we wanted to shift and just recognize that she will be doing more than the communications part. It is program managing going forward.
Okay, and then just finally from my notes, so that digital archives, I think there's an opportunity. I think we've even said this from the dais when we talked about this. There's an opportunity to at Sunrise to create an interactive library of sorts. So Kelly, just keep that in mind. But the other thing is, and I've mentioned this, and so I just want to get it all out, is that I know I talked about creating a nonprofit status or getting them so that we can raise money, but I'm going to even go a step above that, is creating a foundation and bringing on an advisory council of who's who in our community to raise money, to raise a ton of money, because we're going to need that to do the things, accomplish the things that we want to build out there. So Kelly, I know that you have this, because I've worked with you now, you have this ability to really bring folks together and to explain things to people and get people to come along with you. So I'm hoping, we could have a conversation later or whatever about creating a foundation, that's something that we can all be proud of, to really support the efforts out there at Sunrise. But anyway, with that, I know, thank you, sir, for indulging me, but I just, when I was listening to that, it was just a lot. And I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, it is a lot of information, so jump in. I also want to highlight.
Susan has,
As I considered what you're recommending for this next year, I think that the proposal is appropriate. I just can't imagine that it will last and stay the same for more than 1 year. That next year, and we can only approve these things 1 year at a time, that it will have evolved and we can, and you'll be bringing forward to us at that time the next year's plan.
That is correct. As everyone here knows, probably to some people's dismay, I look at org charts as a living thing that needs to evolve and adapt as the organization understands its coming responsibilities and functions. And so while this is this year's org chart, there probably will be recommended changes in the future. Actually, that's one thing I do want to highlight is when we hired Stephanie, within the communications, at that time, strategic communications function within our business information services, I don't think we had such a great understanding of what we've come to learn to be her skills and abilities in the outreach part of it, community outreach, digital engagement, redoing the website. She does the coding herself on a lot of the things, the social media things. And so we've really tried to kind of focus on her strengths there. And that's one of the reasons that I am proposing that we move both Kelly and Stephanie and the communications part of it into administration, is those things actually all do go together in terms of the function of the agency. Events is very driven. Once we have the concept, it is very driven by the administration department. There's a lot of logistics involved, a lot of planning, things like that. The State Water Project tour, our foundation summit, Trails Day, et cetera. So she works really tightly already within administration. And I think for what we have heard from the board in recent weeks is that outreach and that engagement is really working. We are starting to see a lot of good understanding of what we do, why we do it, and how important it is, and a real connection with the community that we serve through these efforts. So we are recommending that we change Stephanie's title slightly. It would be Principal Communications Specialist, but with a clarifier on the org chart and probably on her business cards, is to say events and digital engagement. Again, I feel like titles should tell someone what you do, so that they know who to find when they're searching for someone on the org chart or within the organization, and they want to know about an event. This will pop up. And so we do want to add that clarifier to Stephanie's title, even though it's not part of the official position listed on our table. So just in terms of the org chart, this is what our org chart has looked like for a couple of years with that CIO, and then strategic communications, IT, and GIS were in that department. This was something that we had for about 5 years. But again, with the retirement of our former CIO, we took it easy and tried to figure out what needed to be done there and some of the other organizational needs that were more pressing at the time, namely operations. So we are picking it up again and looking at what we need going forward. So what we are proposing is that we eliminate this department and redistribute the resources to other departments. Functionally, over the last 18 months, this has been happening anyways. We were trying a few different things out. And so this is where we have landed. We would create, basically expand the administration department. If you remember, several years ago, probably 4 years ago, Jose was called the Administrative Services Manager and Clerk of the Board. Then he was transitioned to Chief of Staff in recognition of the very important role that he served as kind of a conduit between the staff and myself. And so we are recommending that we reclassify the position from Chief of Staff, Clerk of the Board to Chief Administrative Officer and Deputy General Manager, and also to serve as the Clerk of the Board. I want to point out on the left of this org chart, we do have our Chief Operating Officer, Assistant General Manager, and Chief Engineer. We like everyone here to have multiple titles if we can. But I want to just clarify that these two positions, they have an "and" within their titles because they serve more than one role within the agency. So that's kind of a overview of the departments. So we would be expanding these two departments. We would be adding IT and GIS into Wen's department. The reason that we landed on IT being within Wen's department is that in reality, while he does a lot of great computer things for us, Tony also does a lot of operations-based security improvements that's actually out in the field. He works one-on-one with Wen a lot on our cybersecurity things, and also just the general, how can I say, the technical communications things that we need for SCADA and the computer network and servers and things like that. So it fits well within Wen's department. He works really closely. Tony works very closely with engineering operations and the water resources department. GIS is more of a long-term planning tool, and it actually fits quite well within our planning and watershed resilience department. And so we have tried that out over the last about 18 months, and we think that works, which leaves moving the communication staff into administration, as I said. This is just a before and after in terms of the reporting relationships. Again, communications staff, Stephanie and Kelly would both report to Jose, along with our other administrative staff, Andrea and Aaliyah. And Tony would report to Wen, with Dan Burrell, our GIS manager, reporting to Greg Woodside. So I want to take a moment just to talk a little bit in more depth about the purpose of the reclassification that is being proposed here for your consideration today. The reason behind this is that the role has evolved in a way that the Chief of Staff position does not really address as we need it to. The proposed reclassification from Chief of Staff, Clerk of the Board to Chief Administrative Officer, Deputy General Manager is an operationally justified and strategically necessary evolution of this position that aligns with the executive authority that the person, the incumbent, Mr. Jose Macedo, has really been doing for a couple of years now in terms of leadership. It reflects the complexity and the leadership responsibilities that have already been performed and that we have needed within the organization in the administrative realm. The needs for this position have evolved beyond what a traditional Chief of Staff role is, which is primarily, and it has been primarily, to serve as the right hand of the CEO and a go-between between staff and myself when I'm not immediately available for staff. What we need in this role is a true executive level role for administration within our agency, which, as you know, is becoming more complex and expanding, especially with the expansion into hydropower with our joint powers authorities. We also need to restructure the reporting roles following the dissolution of the BIS department. The proposed Chief Administrative Officer and Deputy General Manager position really consolidates and oversees the following functions: general administration of both San Bernardino Valley efforts and also coordination of the joint powers authorities that we're already part of, and probably at least one more that's coming to support the Habitat Conservation Plan. To support the board as he has been doing and support the administration of the board's requirements. To also oversee and align the strategic communications, media relations, community outreach, and public engagement, along with digital engagement and website oversight. Like I just said, these things are very integrated as it is, and so we want to formally reflect that on the org chart. This provides executive leadership and continuity and delegated authority to the staff that is recognized formally by the board, the staff, and our org chart. The expanded scope of this responsibility represents the operational leadership rather than staff support functions, which have been traditionally associated with the chief of staff role. And the position would now serve as a central coordinating executive across all departments, regional partnerships, and our affiliated agencies or JPAs in terms of the administration requirements of all of those things. This also does reflect a industry best practice in terms of the use of a deputy general manager or assistant general manager structures. And I just wanted to explain that a little bit more. Lots of agencies do it many different ways. We've researched many of them. I've spent hours Googling how people set this up. And really, it's up to each agency how they want to use the two different titles of assistant general manager versus deputy general manager. So how we use it is that the assistant general manager, we have one, it's our chief operating officer, Wen Wong, assistant general manager. And we view that as if I was hit by a car tomorrow and incapacitated, you could turn to Wen and he could do all of the functions of the general manager for an interim basis. Or until the board decided to recruit and select someone else. And in that case, perhaps it would be Wen after that also. But the assistant general manager is really a replacement for me should catastrophe occur. The deputy general manager, however, is slightly different. And usually the deputy general manager is not associated with a particular title, but rather a person that the general manager is comfortable delegating their authority and signing power to in their temporary absence. So when I go on vacation, I designate Cindy to have, and Wen also can sign on my behalf as the assistant general manager, but Cindy also has the ability to sign checks on my behalf. We can approve wires that way. And that really just kind of gives everyone the ability to continue business in the temporary absence of the general manager. So we use those two functions as slightly different. However, it is very good and efficient to have multiple deputy general managers who can sign on behalf of the agency. We need 2 signatures with all financial transactions. And as you know, Wen and I sometimes travel together, or 2 of us go places, or one is on vacation and I'm traveling. So it's really helpful to have 2 people in the office who can sign checks and approve financial things. The administration, it's not something that someone can just step into the role if you want to have a very effective chief administrative officer. This is a specialized area of expertise that does require many years of experience in order to do it well. And so we want to basically give that opportunity to reclassify our chief of staff into a greater expanded role that goes beyond internal support services. This is really supporting administratively all of the things that we do, which include supporting regional partnerships and our JPAs, doing multi-agency coordination, effectively processing things related to public transparency and community engagement, organizational continuity, and the cross-functional implementation of all of our agency priorities. Administration goes across all departments, and so you really do need someone very strong in that area so that you can have high-level administration, board governance support, and executive coordination, along with organizational leadership, crisis communications, and emergency response. So why reclassify our existing chief of staff into this proposed new position? Well, because honestly, I haven't seen anyone better at administration and effectively running all of the things all of the time. He has effectively been doing this job in practice for a couple of years, even without the formal title and authority. He has done that on my behalf, definitely for the last year to 18 months, and on Wen's behalf. He has developed our staff to a great extent. He's worked with them on their own performance, on many things related to their own advancement and preparation for future opportunities within our organization. Jose has created a culture and a practice of accountability within our organization and set the expectation of teamwork. He has supported people from every department within the agency with challenges and unexpected conditions that really needed a lot of effort in order to address them. He has faithfully conducted the administration of our agency, and I think the board would probably agree with all of the board's roles and responsibilities, and will continue to do so going forward as the clerk of the board. In case all of you don't remember, but this is a big deal, so I want to highlight his experience in this area of expertise. Jose has been at this agency for over 5 years. However, before he became part of San Bernardino Valley, he had a long and honored career in the U.S. Army. As a reminder of this background and what makes him qualified for this reclassification into a new role is the following. So when he came to us, he had over 21 years of experience of progressive responsibility and leadership in administration, specifically within the Army, both starting as an enlisted personnel and promoted so fast that he then became an officer within the Army. He retired as a captain, but got a recommendation to major, but he had already come here first, so he did retire as a captain. Jose's Army experience included executive, operational, logistical, administrative, and personnel management. He spent 2 years as a commander of a company within the Army and served multiple rounds as an executive officer, providing administrative support and to multiple divisions, including generals and senior staff within the Army. His combination of executive leadership, organizational administration, strategic planning, operational coordination, governance, and compliance oversight is unparalleled. His background reflects the type of broad executive experience that we are looking for to oversee the modern administration department and the board governance that we require going forward on these big initiatives and the efforts that the board has put before us. His educational background supports this reclassification. He holds a Bachelor of Art in Business Administration, a Master's of Arts in Management and Leadership. He has a professional logistics certification. He's actually called a Master Logistician, which I learned is a thing. And finally, he is in the process of completing his doctoral work and his PhD in organizational strategy, including his doctoral dissertation on transformation within organizations. His educational and professional background supports executive administration, organizational leadership, strategic management, operational planning, and all of the things that we require in public sector executive coordination. His combination of executive leadership and all of the things I have mentioned before provide a strong foundation for him to be our next or our first chief administrative officer and to serve as my deputy general manager in my absence, along with Cindy and Wen as my assistant general manager. And his background reflects the type of broad executive and operational leadership that we require going forward. With that, I am, I think, ready to turn it over to the board for your consideration of these elements, which I will just rephrase really quickly. So we are asking for the elimination of the CIO role, but the addition of a new operations supervisor, which brings us to a net zero full-time employees. This will provide us with approximately $54,900 per year in savings, and if approved, would become effective on July 4th. So staff is requesting approval of the revised job position and salary range table, an updated organizational chart with the proposed changes to take effect the first full pay period of FY 26-27. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam Chief Executive. One thing you said during your conversation is something that I see over and over, and it never ceases to amaze me. And it's demonstrated by all the employees that are in the room here, plus a lot more. And that is that every one of our people that come to work for us, and I think I've been here through, Wen and Cindy were here before I got here, but the rest of our employees all came since I've been here. And it never ceases to amaze me. And this is not just confined to who's here. I can think of a lot of other names. It just doesn't cease to amaze me how we hire people for certain positions and certain responsibilities, and we find out afterward that they can take those responsibilities and add, and they can double them. They have so many more skills, and it's just incredible as they continue to blossom and rise in their capacities. And you two ladies back there, it works for both of you, and Karen, and it's just heartwarming to see what we've created and how these people have helped us create it. And it's an incredible organization. And I thank you for your leadership in this, Heather, and each of our employees. And Cindy and Wen have had a big role in this. And I appreciate your input from both of you and your support as we build this team. And we're stepping into a couple of big new areas, including 1,600 acres and 700 hydroelectric plants. I mean, pardon? How many did I say? Oh, well, I meant to say 7, sorry. But it's, and I think we've got the team that's ready to do that and has the capability of doing that. And they just get better and better. Thank you. Board members, anyone else have comments? Okay. Paul.
Let me turn my microphone on.
Certainly.
Thank you. In your presentation, you mentioned many of the responsibilities that go with each position. Where are these written down?
In the job descriptions that we have on file, either when we go out and recruit or in the file.
On an individual basis?
Yes.
And one thing I'd like just to clarify is we've heard people talk about individual employees and how wonderful they are and whatnot. And that's true. But we're kind of doing two things here. We're making structural changes with an expectation of who will fill those positions. And we need to keep in mind that if we make structural changes, the individuals we are familiar with may not always be the individuals that are here. So we need to keep that in mind as we make the decision. You can make them as two different decisions, or you can make them together, and it seems like we're making them together. But I just wanted to point that out. And then I'll just leave it at that.
Okay,
Thank you.
Chair,
Oh,
Jose?
I do have a couple questions. I might be long-winded, sorry, for different series of questions.
You may be what?
Long-winded here on some of the questions, or might take my time with this workshop. I don't know, this question is for Karen or Heather. Obviously, I'm the newest board member, so I just want to make sure I understand our process. What's our recruitment process right now, Karen? Can you detail it from beginning to end?
Sure. So whenever there's a vacant position, we would, if we don't have an internal candidate, we look internally as well. If we do not have an internal
Let me
candidate,
stop you there. How do you determine that?
based on meritorious service, based on the duties they're performing. So if it's a reclassification, that means the person's been doing the role or parts of the roles for a time already, and that person fits that role. Or if there's a vacancy and we don't have a candidate, then we're going to post the recruitment to the general public and recruit for that. Like we did recently for operations supervisor for hydro. We did not have an internal candidate, so we went out to the public. If we post to the public, we collect applications for a specified period of time. Sometimes it's open until filled, depending on how difficult it is to recruit for. We close it, we review the applications, we select those we want to bring forward. We do interviews, usually multiple interviews, and sometimes also an activity like a writing exercise. And then we make a final offer once that person is selected, put them through background and bring them on.
Now, is this process written somewhere? In the
I
policy?
have my own internal, handbook that I use for my processes. In the employee handbook that you all approved, it talks about, our goal is to recruit from within or to grow from within. And if we can't, then we will go outside to find the best candidate possible for the role.
So it's not written in,
It's just my internal processes for recruitment.
and then the other thing, I know we talked about series classifications.
Mhm.
Can you tell me the difference between the series classification and the classification open for recruitment or the other type?
Well, a job series is one where a candidate could start at the entry level. And then, so that's like the strategic communications or communication specialist. There's a senior and a principal. If someone enters as a communication specialist at the point where they might meet the minimum qualifications for senior and they're doing well, and they were recommended for a promotion by their manager and approved by the general manager, then we can promote them within series. So we have multiple series. We have operators, water resources analysts, admin analysts, and several others. And that's intended to grow the candidate so that they do not have to leave here in order to go find a more challenging role or something more fulfilling. They can promote within their series up to senior to principal.
Right. So is it defined which ones are series and which ones are not?
Yes, on the job descriptions.
In the job description?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then just my, I'm very process oriented just by nature. I think for me, and this is my opinion from one board member, I believe to reclassify to a deputy general manager is not the correct way to do this. In my opinion, I would have liked to see this in a competitive environment. Going back to what Director Kehoe said, we got to keep in mind, I know we're trying to balance, and we think a person could do in a role, if not, and I don't want to get into like the individual, but I'm just saying just the title itself and the positions itself. I like to make sure we follow best practices and full transparency in all our processes and having the policies already written down, which is my nature. So That's my comment there for now. And the other thing is, I know we have this workshop, from what I understand, we have this workshop every year. I agree with Heather, org charts are living documents, but I would like to see as a board have more input in succession planning and not have only one workshop where that's when the jobs are changing and brought to us one time, and then we have to make a decision. I think the board should be involved in the input of the vision of the district as well. And that entitles everything, not just the mission, vision, everything, but also the org chart as well. Because what I'm seeing right now is that my gentleman to the left of me is getting more and more and more tasks, and it's only one win. So that's a concerning factor for me, from this perspective. And then also in finance, we have a lot of challenges, as you know, with how are we going to fund a lot of these projects? And our finance department is small as well. So just my comments there.
Through the chair.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a response from our legal counsel?
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
I want to start by saying that I appreciate the comments from my colleagues. I think that they're both from Director Kilhold and Director Velasquez. They're both timely, and I totally understand where they're coming from. But let me say this. First of all, I want to speak to Heather. I want to say something to you, Heather. In my background is almost 30 years in workforce. One of the challenges that we had probably 20 years ago after the Gulf War was we were trying to figure out how we were going to be able to assist the I don't know how many millions, maybe we're coming back from serving, and how to identify their transferable skills to civilian life. That was a huge challenge, not just for us in San Bernardino County, but across the nation. And one of the things that we had to do is we had to contract out those services to experts so that we didn't leave people behind. So when you were talking about reclassifying Jose's position, it warmed my heart that you were able to look at his experience, his executive experience, and how it transferred into civilian life. So that's a big deal for me. But also, I think that I'm just going to talk about my experience with Jose, is that he never says no, and he always finds an answer. And even I know I can be a lot sometimes, and he has always tried to and has delivered. So I know that he has the skill set. I know that he's the right person for the job, and he's been doing the job. So I want to thank you, because we as a board, since I've been here, and it's been hard for me, and I learned a long time ago that you report to the board. That's it. That's it. So if I have a problem, and that's why I have to remind myself, and that's why I said earlier, I said, I'm going to talk to you, because I have to remind myself that I don't talk to the staff. The staff doesn't really report to me. I don't want to get in the weeds, because I have a bad habit of doing that, and it doesn't always work out well. Trust me. So I just want to say to you, thank you. We have given you a huge charge, and to be able to figure it all out and to keep your team together and to make your minor adjustments, I applaud that. I think that this is, you took a lot of, listen to your notes, and you took a lot of time and effort to make sure that you were communicating your thoughts and the why. And that's my colleague on my right here. That's one thing that I learned from him is, why are we doing this? We're doing this because, are you asking us to do this? Because it's needed. and I trust, and I've always said this to you, that if you need staff, when I first joined this board, it was 13 of us, staff members. Now there's what, 29, something like that. Anyway, so I've always said, you know, I trust the fact that you ask for what you need, not what you want. So anyway, I just want to say that there was a lot here today. Even the Kelly stuff is big. And for me, I didn't really think about it. Now it's on my radar, and I think it's an opportunity, and I'm excited about that. The Jose thing, and I'm going to say names. The Jose thing is huge too, because Jose is the glue, I think, administratively. I know there's other pieces, you know, but I think this is a good move. I think is the best move at the best time, and I think we're going to, for example, we're going to form a new JPA, or we did form a new JPA with the hydroelectric plants, you know, the WIFIA, all the things that we're doing. This board is really, and my colleagues, I'm sure they feel the heat. A lot is expected, not only of the board, but of the staff. So I think that we have to be ready to pivot, as you said earlier, and be able to be bold and not be afraid to make major changes. That's the only way we're going to be able to accomplish the things that we need to accomplish over at Sunrise Ranch. Paul always asks, and I don't have to ask because he does, when is this HCP plan going to be approved? When are we going to do this? So that's there, then that's kind of out there, and I know that's coming, but Joanna does amazing work. So I don't know. I just think if we're going to be, and we're investing all this billions of dollars into sites, I think that we're a district to really be reckoned with, and we're innovative, and we're forward thinking, and we're all those good things, and we're responsible, and we're not. We take care of the ratepayer money, and we do a good job there also, and I'm proud of that. So I just think this is a good move. I support it 100%. I understand the concerns of my colleagues, but I have to, when Jose was talking right now, Director Velasquez, I had to check myself because I know that I want to see everybody's resume, and I want to see, you know, what they've done before this. But you know what? That's your job. And I trust that you're going to do the best work. So with that, I'm done, but I just want to thank you. That's it, sir.
Mr. Council, did you have a?
Yes, I just wanted to comment that certainly the suggestions that Jose made are policy options for the board to consider in the future, but to make clear that legally you can reclassify a position to a higher position. It's quite common for my clients to do that when jobs evolve. And then also, most of my special district clients do not have extensive processes or rules related to recruitment. And that's a conscious decision on their part to maintain flexibility. I have a few clients who do have chapter and verse about you have to post it and you have to post it here and you have to keep it open for this long, et cetera, et cetera. But it's not a statutory requirement. So it's a policy option for the board if you'd like to consider that in the future, but we don't have to do it today.
All right, Susan?
As I read through all of the recommendations, I had questions, and they've all been answered. And I appreciate the the comments of my colleagues, and I just think that of all 12 years, this is the best. This is by far the best, and it's a culmination of your leadership and of the people that you've chosen, and that you know, that this revised job position and salary range table make a lot of sense to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan. Yes, CEO.
Yes, I just wanted to comment a little bit, maybe clarify or contextualize some processes. So my preference is not to put out an advertisement. Well, first, let me say, I try to make do on our shifting needs in terms of leadership, authority, and organizational structure with the resources that we already have. I intentionally tried to make sure that, you know, we kept it at the existing amount of approved full-time employees, to recognize that we've had a shift and an evolution in our needs, that we need someone with additional formal authority to lead in the administration department and the entire agency in that function, while doing it within what has the amount of funding necessary for that staff, but also kind of the people that we have. So I strategically was trying to make do with the resources that we had. In terms of going out and advertising, to have any one of the chief positions, there's a high level of trust needed. You know, Wen has some great people around him. I also worry about Wen's workload. But I will say he has great people around him.
What if he
and
gets hit by a bus?
then we are all in big trouble if Wen's not allowed to walk in public.
And he doesn't have to do parks anymore. I mean,
Yes.
that was a huge load off of him. You know, he had a lot of spare time after that.
But I will say that, you know, to have that type of, as the CEO with such a huge responsibility and knowing that it's increasing over time into things that we're not experts in already in terms of hydropower, selection of people is the most important thing that I do, I believe. And so by having people around us in these high level positions, that we know their work ethic, we know their level of effort, we know their level of respect and engagement with the board and our partners and things like that. There's nothing more important to me than that. And so to intentionally advertise for a new high level position such as this, knowing in the back of my mind that I already have a person who is highly suited for that with over 20 years experience doing exactly what I need that person to do, and has proven themselves to both me and also the directors and our partners, I would hesitate to do that because I believe that's somewhat unfair to the people who may apply. And so I try really hard. If I know what I need and I know who can provide that, that's really my preferred method, is to go after that person and figure out a way to move them into that position, because I just feel that's very fair. So I was unaware that there were concerns with our historic practice of how we do this meeting, and I'm very open-minded to, in the future, you know, maybe we establish a wages and benefits committee, a true committee, and you know, similar to what other agencies do, or even a annual budget committee with the 2 board members who will sit with staff beforehand. I think that's a great idea. I would love to do that. We used to do that a really long time ago, probably 15 years ago, 12 years ago. So I was unaware of that prior. This, you know, we are doing this workshop today in the same method that we've always done it, is bringing everything, our needs and our ideas to address those needs, to the full board in this workshop for your consideration. So like I said, you know, it's not really about the person. We needed the strategic change to our org chart to address many different requirements that we see coming. But we are fortunate enough to have Jose here in our chief of staff role. And so my purpose was really to re-envision that job into something greater than it currently is in terms of responsibility and authority with the staff, and to reclassify it as such so that our existing resource within the agency could meet those future needs. And so I just wanted to offer that point of clarification. And I appreciate your comments, Susan, that this is the best org chart yet. Believe me, it's something that keeps me up at night. Org charts are very hard. Strategic kind of positioning of assets and resources is very challenging. Thankfully, I have Brad and Karen and Wen and Cindy assisting me as well. So with that, I'll turn it back over to the board. Thank you.
Through the chair, I have
Thank-
one final comment, sir, if I may.
Are you sure it's final?
Yes.
Okay.
I just wanted to say, I wanted to remind my colleagues that from whenever we have had added employees, I've always said, for example, Karen, I don't know if you guys remember, I said that we needed not only someone who did personnel, but risk management. I said, because as an organization grows, those responsibilities become more taxing. I remember when we were talking about Stephanie doing the redesign of our website, and one of my questions was, who's going to manage that? And she went, "Oh, I'm going to do it." Well, again, we start adding all these duties to people, and they're really specialized. So that's why I've always said, let's make certain that we do take a look at those positions and not overload folks. And then one thing that didn't come up, but I want to, so again, I'm going to say it, is that I would hope that Jose would be really open and honest with you, Heather, and let you know if that clerk of the board position becomes overwhelming, that we look at how we solve that problem. He's been there for us, all of us, and whatever we need. But you're taking on now, if this board approves this, a huge administrative task. So I don't want there to be a situation where, when Milford wants to travel, that he can't get someone to book his hotel. I don't know, so those kinds of things. Those, I know they seem incidental, but they're not. And I like the committee, the ad hoc. Thank you, Director Velasquez. I think that would solve that issue. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yes,
I promise this will be my final comment on this agenda item as well.
doesn't need to be. We respect what you say.
But I also wanted to mention, again, not a legally binding past practice, but before I got here, I believe that there were some similar reclassifications for at least two people in this room where they had additional title and duties thrust upon them. And I see their heads nodding. So I will point that out too. So we have a past practice of following this type of staff recommendation.
Thank you. Any other comments? I'd just like to say, I'd like to say that Paul has his hand up.
Sure. My comments are not about any individual in this room, any individual involved here. It's more programmatic. And I think our job descriptions need a higher visibility. In the file is not a great answer. So I'd like to see some other way to find out what these are. For instance, in this item, we're asked to change the titles, but we don't know what the titles go to unless we go through all the files. So I think we need to work on that. And that's all I wanted to say, was that there are process changes that have nothing to do with the people.
I would suggest we can put the job descriptions on the new website if that's what the board would like.
Well, I don't know that it needs to be that high a profile.
Karen's telling me they're there already. I just didn't know that. I apologize.
So all of the job descriptions that are finalized are publicly available. And for those that when we reclass, I then work on the official job description.
So is there one for chief administrative officer?
There will be. So it's conceptual at this point, and there will be one, and it'll be posted on our website when it's
Okay.
finalized.
And then that will have the changes for the other two?
Yes. Yeah. So like strategic communications specialist series and also strategic communications manager
just need
are
to
currently
test
there.
Just need to,
They will get updated once the approvals are
just
made.
need to get into our website a little more.
We just need to have board approval before we do any of those changes.
Yes.
I think that that committee would really alleviate a lot of the confusion.
So what I would ask that we consider the committee for next year, though, if possible, since we're heading into general fund budget preparation this week. So
Right. Any other comments by the board? I would just like to say a couple of things. First of all, Heather and Cindy and Wen and all of you and Karen that put time and effort into this. Jose also. I appreciate how thoroughly you have reviewed this and how deep you've gone into job descriptions and creating a set of charts that really make sense. Relative to the new position of chief of staff and chief administrative officer and deputy general manager and clerk of the board, I would have been very opposed to going out to public on trying to get someone to fill that position rather than putting Jose in that position. Jose, you've proven yourself. I had some hesitation when you first showed up. And because I know how executive officers in the Army work, I've had some experience there, when I was a general. Just kidding. I've known some executive officers, and everyone I've known is really sharp. But Army versus here, you did it well, and you continue to do it well. And you haven't asked me to salute once, and it's really appreciated. I think that it would be a disservice to go out and recruit and find 10 other people. I don't think it'd be fair to them. It's kind of like when we went out for a new CEO for this organization, and we interviewed 8 people, and it was basically a disservice to 7 of them because we had somebody that was so much better than everybody on the table. We were very, oh, well, some of us knew it before we even started, but anyway, I respect your concern as a director, Jose, and I don't say that to go against you in any way. I appreciate your very thorough analysis of what's going on here. I would ask, if you don't mind, Heather, I'd like to have these in a size that would be large enough to read.
yes, we will also put that on the list for next year. Sorry about that.
No, not next year.
You-
These can be blown up right away.
We will. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pardon? I have my packet. Oh, you're right. Never mind. Sorry. All right, that's all I have to say. If anyone else has any comments, please speak now, or what is the pleasure of the board relative to the recommendation and the presentation? Do I have a motion?
I would be honored to make this motion that the
Yeah.
staff recommend approval, that mean that the board that the board approve the revised job position and salary range table and updated organizational chart with the proposed changes to take effect on the first full pay period of fiscal year 2026-27 on July 4th, and that these changes align classifications and reporting relationships with the current operational priorities and result in no net change in our total authorized full-time employee count.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any other comments? Mr. Clerk, please.
Director Longville, Director Mateo,
Yes.
Director Keelhold,
Yes.
Director Velasquez,
Yes.
and President Harrison.
Yes,
The motion carries. The staff recommendation for item 4.4 is approved.
thank you very much. Thank you all for your participation. This is definitely a heavy matter to take care of, and we've done it, and we've done it well. And now we can move on. Now we can move on to the last item on our agenda. Which Paul is so anxious to get on. This will be brought to us by Heather Dyer, and this has to do with the review of the director daily per diem. Is there any need for a presentation, or does somebody just want to make a motion?
Second.
Will you be offended, Heather, if we don't have
I
a,
am not, no. We will just skip the slides that we prepared.
we have a motion and a second. Mr. Clerk?
Director Keelhold,
Yes.
Director Velasquez,
Yes.
Director Longville,
Yes.
Vice President Mateo,
Yes.
and President Harrison.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Sometimes I just know how the board is going to go on things.
That's why you're the president.
Yeah, right. Yeah. All right. Any other items to come before the board? Since we have none online. Yes, sir. There's not an opportunity to ask for future business. Yes, sir.
And I'm going to work around that.
Oh, boy.
I don't think this is future business. It's just a suggestion to the general manager. On the 3-day weekend, the 3-day holiday thing, could we get the staff package earlier than 3 days, like a day or two?
Yes, we will
What's that mean?
basically get it out earlier. Yes, good point.
When did you get yours?
Well, let's not go there. Let's just say,
Because I had mine in plenty of time.
well, if you have Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off, when is your opportunity to ask
I got
questions?
mine on
Yeah.
Friday. So that's all I'm saying. Okay, that's fine.
I see your point, Director Keelhold, that you didn't want to bother staff over the holiday weekend, which we appreciate, but you can certainly feel free to call us on the holiday weekend as well. But we will try very hard to get that out. We will also work very hard to get out the budget packet earlier, so that you have more time to review that as well. We're aiming for a week ahead, so.
Good. All right. Thank you. We're adjourned.